He didn't flinch. That's the part I keep coming back to. When my mother-in-law looked my daughter straight in the eyes and said what she said, my husband didn't raise his voice. He didn't slam a door or storm out of the room. He just looked at her, then looked at our kids, and reached into his pocket. I'll get to what happened next, but first, you need to understand how we got there. My name is not important. What matters is that I am a wife, a mother of two, and for 6 years, I tried harder than I should have to fit into a family that was never going to let me. My husband's name is Daniel. We met when we were both 26, working at the same company in Charlotte. He was in logistics. I was in accounts. We got married 3 years later in a small ceremony at a vineyard outside the city. Just close family and a few friends. My mother cried. His mother wore beige and spent most of the reception talking to her sister about a kitchen renovation. I noticed, but I told myself it didn't mean anything. We had our daughter Lily 2 years after the wedding, then our son Marcus 18 months after that. They are the best thing I have ever done. Lily has Daniel's eyes and my stubbornness. Marcus has my laugh and a habit of collecting rocks from every parking lot he's ever visited. They are funny and loud and kind, and they deserved better than what happened to them that November. Daniel's family is large. He has 2 brothers, one older, one younger. The older one, Thomas, lives 20 minutes from us with his wife and 3 kids. The younger one, Ryan, is still single, still living 40 minutes north. His mother, Patricia, is the center of the family's universe, or at least she believes she is. Every holiday is at her house. Every decision runs through her first. Every opinion she has is delivered as fact, and the family has operated that way for so long that nobody questions it anymore. I questioned it once in year 2 of our marriage. I suggested we spend Thanksgiving with my parents, since we'd done it with Patricia 3 years running. Daniel looked at me like I'd suggested we spend it on the moon. We went to Patricia's. I stopped suggesting after that. Thomas and his wife Claire had 3 kids. 2 boys and a girl. Their daughter Sophie was turning 8 that November. It was going to be a big party. Patricia had already announced. Rented venue, catered food, a balloon artist, a photo booth. The works. Sophie was the first granddaughter in the family, and Patricia had made her status very clear from the beginning. First granddaughter. Special. Precious. My Lily is the second granddaughter. She had been told this in different ways, many times, though never in those exact words. It was always subtle. Sophie's drawings on the refrigerator, Lily's artwork left on the counter. Sophie got a charm bracelet for her birthday from Patricia. Lily got a gift card to Target. I told myself I was reading too much into it. I told myself Patricia just had a longer relationship with Sophie because Thomas had been around longer. I kept explaining it away. Then came the invitation situation. About 5 weeks before Sophie's party, Claire sent out digital invitations. Every cousin on Daniel's side received one. Ryan's girlfriend's niece, who had met Sophie exactly twice, received one. My Lily and my Marcus did not. I found out by accident. Lily was on a video call with her cousin, Sophie's older brother Ben, who mentioned the party and asked Lily if she was excited about the balloon animals. Lily didn't know what he was talking about. I was in the kitchen doorway when it happened. I watched my daughter's face shift from confusion to something quieter and more painful. She didn't cry. She was 7. She just said, "I don't think I'm going." I called Daniel into the bedroom and told him what happened. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said he would call Thomas. Thomas's answer was that it was Claire's decision, and Claire had decided to keep the party to Sophie's school friends and a few select family members. He said it wasn't personal. I want you to sit with that for a second. My daughter's cousins were invited. Extended family connections Lily had never met were invited, but my daughter and my son, who saw Sophie at nearly every family gathering, were not invited, and we were told it wasn't personal. Daniel came back to the bedroom and told me what Thomas said. His jaw was tight. I asked him what we were going to do. He said, "We're not going." I agreed. Of course we weren't going. Neither of us was going to sit at a party our children weren't welcome at. We told the kids there was a scheduling conflict, that we'd do something fun that weekend, just the 4 of us. Lily accepted this. Marcus asked if we could go to the trampoline place. We said yes. I thought it was going to end there. I really did. Patricia called 3 days later. She didn't call to apologize. She didn't call to ask what happened or to see how Lily and Marcus were doing. She called to tell me that Daniel not attending Sophie's party would devastate Sophie, and that family unity was important, and that adults needed to put aside their feelings for the sake of the children. I want to be very clear about what she just said to me. She wanted us to put aside our feelings, meaning our children being excluded, for the sake of the children, meaning Sophie. Not Lily. Not Marcus. Just Sophie. I said, Patricia, our kids weren't invited. She said, Claire has her reasons and it's her party to plan. I said, then it's our weekend to plan too. She did not like that answer. Over the next 2 weeks, I received 3 more calls, one from Patricia, one from Thomas, one from Ryan, who had no real stake in any of this, but apparently had been recruited. The message was the same each time. Daniel should attend. I should encourage him to. Family comes first. Sophie would be heartbroken. We were making this bigger than it needed to be. Nobody asked how Lily was doing. Nobody mentioned Marcus. They were invisible in every single one of those conversations, which told me everything I needed to know about how this family actually saw my children. Then Patricia did something I still cannot fully explain. 2 weeks before the party, she called Lily on video chat. Lily was in the living room. I was nearby, but not in frame. I heard Patricia ask Lily how school was going, what she'd been up to. Normal grandmother conversation. Then she said, "Are you excited about Sophie's birthday party? Have you thought about what you're going to wear?" I stopped moving. Lily hesitated and said, "I don't think we're going, Grandma." Patricia said, "Oh, well, you never know what might happen. These things have a way of working out." She knew those kids weren't invited. She had been part of every conversation about it. She asked my daughter what she was going to wear to a party she was excluded from, and then she dangled the possibility that maybe things would change, maybe she'd get to go after all. I ended the call. I went to the bathroom, sat on the edge of the tub, and I breathed. When Daniel came home that evening, I told him exactly what happened. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I told him word for word what his mother had said to our daughter. I watched his face while I talked. He was still, very still. He said, "Say that again." I said it again. He sat down. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Okay." Just okay. I didn't know what that meant yet. That night, after the kids were in bed, Lily came to our doorway and said, "Mom, did I do something wrong? Is that why we can't go to Sophie's party?" I crossed the room and held her and told her no. I told her she had done nothing wrong, that she was wonderful, that sometimes grown-ups made decisions that didn't make sense, and that none of it was her fault. She asked if Sophie was still her cousin. I said yes. She asked if they could still play together. I said yes. After she went back to bed, I sat in the hallway for a while. The following morning, Daniel made a phone call, not to his mother, not to Thomas. He called a man named Greg, who was Thomas's business partner and a mutual professional connection of Daniel's. They had been discussing a logistics consulting arrangement for several months. Nothing signed, just preliminary conversations, but it was substantial. Enough that Thomas had mentioned it at a family dinner with visible excitement, talking about what it would mean for the business, how Daniel's involvement would change things. Daniel told Greg he was stepping back from the conversation and wouldn't be moving forward with the arrangement. He said it simply and professionally. He said his priorities had shifted. He thanked Greg for his time. He didn't tell Thomas it was coming. He didn't call Patricia. He didn't make an announcement. He just stepped back. I didn't find out about the call until later that evening. Daniel sat down across from me at the kitchen table while the kids were watching a movie in the next room and told me what he'd done. He wasn't angry when he told me. He was just calm, the way he gets when he's already processed something completely and moved on. I said, "Are you sure?" He said, "I've been sure since Lily asked if she did something wrong." The party happened on a Saturday. We took the kids to the trampoline park in the morning and then to their favorite lunch spot, a little burger place near the park that has a jukebox and a wall of vintage license plates. Marcus found a rock in the parking lot shaped like a heart. He was so proud of it. Lily ate an entire basket of onion rings by herself and made us all laugh doing impressions of her teacher. It was a good day, a genuinely good day, and not in a performing happiness way. It was just our family doing normal things on a regular Saturday, and both kids went to bed that night, tired and full and fine. I thought about Sophie's party once, briefly around noon. Then I let it go. Thomas found out about the business arrangement the following week. I don't know exactly how the conversation happened because I wasn't there. But Daniel told me Thomas called him, sounding confused at first and then progressively less so, as Daniel explained, calmly and without elaboration, that his decision had been made and was final. Thomas said, "This is over a birthday party?" Daniel said, "This is about my kids." Thomas apparently had nothing to say to that. Patricia called me 2 days later. This time the tone was different. There was no more talk about family unity or Sophie's feelings. She was upset in a way she couldn't quite organize into sentences. She said Daniel was being vindictive. She said he was hurting the family over something small. She said I had influenced him. I said, "Patricia, your granddaughter asked me if she did something wrong, 7 years old. She wanted to know why her cousins were invited to a party and she wasn't." "Silence," I said, "and then you called her and asked what she was going to wear." More silence. I said, "We're not interested in relitigating this. We just want our kids treated like they belong in this family." She said she had never intended to hurt anyone. I said, "I believe you, but intentions don't change what Lily felt." We didn't resolve anything that day. I didn't expect to. Some things don't resolve in a single phone call, and I had stopped needing resolution from Patricia a long time ago. What I needed was for my children to know that their parents would not quietly absorb mistreatment for the sake of keeping the peace. They needed to see what it looked like when someone stood up without making a scene, without drama, without shouting. Just a closed door, a redirected arrangement, and a very ordinary Saturday at a trampoline park. In the weeks that followed, the family communication changed. Thomas stopped sending the group texts he usually sent. Patricia's invitations became more carefully worded, more deliberate. There was a different energy in the interactions we did have, a kind of new carefulness that hadn't been there before. I am not going to tell you everything is fixed. It isn't. These things don't fix cleanly or quickly, and anyone who tells you otherwise is either very lucky or not paying attention. What I will tell you is that Lily has not asked again if she did something wrong. She plays with Sophie when they see each other at family events. And she does it with the same uncomplicated ease children do when adults haven't poisoned the well for them. Marcus still has the heart-shaped rock. It's on his windowsill next to a piece of quartz he found in a school parking lot and a small ceramic turtle his grandmother, my mother, gave him for his birthday. His grandmother, who drove 4 hours to be there, who brought cupcakes in his favorite flavor, who sat on the floor with him and sorted through his rock collection for an hour and asked the name of every single one. I used to think keeping the peace was the same as keeping the family together. I don't think that anymore. I think keeping the peace, the wrong kind of peace, is just slowly teaching your children that they are not worth the disruption, that their hurt is an inconvenience, that the feelings of the people who excluded them matter more than their own. My husband understood that before I fully put it into words. He didn't argue. He didn't threaten. He just made one quiet decision and held it. That was enough. The kids have already forgotten the party they didn't go to. They remember the jukebox at the burger place and the onion rings and the heart-shaped rock in the parking lot. They remember that their dad stood up. That's what stays. There's something I've learned about the way actions ripple outward, quietly and without announcement. Nobody told Patricia that asking a 7-year-old girl what she was wearing to a party she wasn't invited to would set something irreversible in motion. She probably thought it was a small thing, a harmless question, maybe even a little nudge to keep pressure on us to change our minds and show up anyway. But small things land differently when they land on a child, and what felt like a minor manipulation to an adult felt like a minor manipulation to an adult, felt like a verdict to my daughter. That's the part people miss when they're in the middle of these family situations. They calculate the cost to themselves. They weigh the discomfort of conflict against the discomfort of silence. What they don't weigh, because it's harder to measure, is what their choices are writing into the children who are watching. Lily didn't need a long explanation about what happened. She just needed to see that when something was wrong, her parents named it and responded to it. That's it. That's the whole lesson she took away from that November. I think about the kind of woman she's going to be someday. I think about what it means that one of her earliest memories of her father is of him being still and calm and decided in the face of pressure. Not explosive, not dramatic, just clear. There is a kind of intelligence in that kind of response that no classroom teaches. It's the intelligence of knowing what you value and then letting your actions match it without needing applause or permission. Daniel didn't make that phone call to punish anyone. I want to be honest about that. He made it because he had looked at our daughter's face and understood that staying connected to that business arrangement meant implicitly agreeing that our children's dignity was negotiable. And it wasn't. It never had been. It had just taken this particular situation to make that line visible and solid. What followed for Patricia and Thomas was the natural result of choices that had been building for years. The exclusion of Lily and Marcus wasn't a one-time lapse. It was a pattern that had been allowed to go unnamed for too long. When Daniel finally named it through action rather than argument, the weight of all that accumulated history came with it. That's how it works. Nothing we do exists in isolation. Every small dismissal, every minimized hurt, every time a child is made to feel like an afterthought, it all compounds quietly until one day someone decides they're done absorbing it. I used to confuse endurance with strength. I thought that if I could just keep showing up, keep being gracious, keep choosing peace, the situation would eventually soften on its own. What I understand now is that there's a difference between patience and erasure. Patience waits for the right moment. Erasure just keeps disappearing itself in hopes that being smaller will make the other person kinder. It doesn't work. It never works. My children are not a disruption to this family. They are not secondary grandchildren, backup cousins, guests of a lower tier. They are people, small ones still, with rocks on their windowsills and opinions about onion rings, but people who are watching everything and absorbing all of it into the story they are building about how the world works and what they are worth in it. Daniel understood that, and because he did, so will they.